Just before we dive into learning how to turn a regular photograph into a stencil version, just want to point out really quickly that this is about taking something that has a lot of values and a large value range and turning it into just a positive negative image, just a black and white threshold, because you'll be using the black as the major element of your stencil. You're going to cut out those black areas and you're going to turn it into a stencil that you can spray paint through, which gives you those details. So you're taking a regular image and you're turning it into something that is just positive, negative space, black and white. That is the goal of this. It gets it to a closer space that you can kind of visualize a little better while you're drawing your images. So you're taking a lot of the guesswork out of the process. So let's dive in to just how to do that. Right now I'm going to show you a quick way to create a reference image for your stencil to then draw, trace, and then cut out. Okay. So the first thing that I wanted to point out is that we're going to be using photop.com. It's a free online editing program that you can use to do pretty much most of the things that you can do in Photoshop, but we're going to be sticking to something very simple today. So you're not going to really need much. And then the next thing I want to do is start saying, how can you search for an image? So I'm going to start by looking for a stencil of, let's say, Chris Evans, the actor Chris Evans, who plays Captain America. So I'm going to type in Chris Evans, right? And I'm going to go to images. And the first thing that you want to be aware of is you want a high quality image when you're looking for a source image for your stencils. So I'm going to go over here to tools. I'm going to click size and large so that I get a much larger image to use for my stencil. The next thing I kind of want to think about is lighting. I want good lighting. This is not an image with good lighting here. This one has strong lighting. I want something that's pretty clear close up. Maybe does have some shadows. Shadows actually help define a person's face when using Photoshop or whatever you're using to create a stencil. So, this image right here would be a good example of having some shadows in here that can help define. But because he has a beard, it's actually going to be fairly easy to define those elements. I'm just going to look for one that's pretty clear. Okay, so I've pretty much decided that this one is going to be the one I'm going to go with, just because it's very clean and focused and has kind of the lighting that I'm looking for. Obviously, I don't need Ryan Gosling. So I'm going to save this image on my desktop. I can do that by just clicking and dragging in most cases, or by right-clicking and save image as. I recommend saving it to your desktop that you're working on. Okay. And we'll download onto your desktop. Then we're going to go back into Photop, and I'm going to drag the image that I just saved directly into it, and it'll pop up. That's all I need to do. I might need to do some cropping, so I'm going to use my crop tool on the left here. It's very simple. Click on the crop tool, drag across the image that I want to use, and hit enter, right? That's it. Got rid of Ryan Gosling. Now that's all I have. So here's the tool we're going to be using, or the process we're going to be using to turn this into a stencil. You're going to go up here to Image, Adjustments, right up here, Image, Adjustments, scroll over Adjustments, then you're going to come down to Threshold. You're going to click that and see how it creates a positive, negative space image, right? And I can make the shadows more pronounced or the highlights more pronounced, right? And you're going to see that you're not always going to get the perfect element, right? I'm losing a lot of the nose here. I'm losing some of the details in the eyes to gain some edges over here with the beard. This is too much shadow, right? But the eyes look good there, right? So the eyes are kind of what I want here. The nose is maybe a little bit too prominent. Maybe I want a little bit less of a beard here. Or maybe I do want to kind of go with something like right about in between. This is a good spot, right? You want to find a nice balance. One of the things that you can do to enhance this process is if you come in here, hit cancel. So one thing you can do before you go to Image, Adjustments, Threshold is you can actually burn in some shadows. So if you come over here on the left, these are your tools, and you have a burn tool right here, right? I'm gonna click on that burn tool, and I get a little dot. That's my brush size. It's very tiny right now. I can come up on the top right here, and I can increase that brush size, and maybe make it a little bit softer, okay? And then when I come and I drag over this, you'll see it has darkened that eye, right? You see that? It has darkened it. You noticed before that I kind of didn't have everything I was looking for in the nose area. So I can like add that. I can darken in some of the areas of his eyebrows, right? And so if I do that, I'm gonna darken in a little bit over here, okay? Now when I go to image adjustments, threshold, you'll see the eyes are darker, right? So you can play around with those things to kind of get them where you want them. Maybe you'll notice there's maybe too much shadow here. So I'm gonna hit cancel, and I'm actually gonna do a little bit of the opposite. I'm gonna click on the dodge tool, which will lighten an area. And I'm gonna just come in here and I'm gonna kind of like brighten up a little bit around that eye right there, right? It was a little bit too intense. You see how I just brightened that up? And you can do this everywhere. You can do it in the hair, you can do it in the teeth, wherever you want. Image adjustments, threshold, and now you have your positive, negative element, right? I have just enough of the nose, just enough of the eyes. Maybe I think I have a little bit too much nose here. If I want to go with this area, again, I can go back and I can kind of clean that up a little bit, get rid of some of that nose edge, because you're going to redraw this anyway, and you're going to be able to make some decisions when doing that, okay? Just going to brighten a little bit more in the eyes. It was a little bit too much. Go back to image threshold. I'm going to toggle this until I get to a point where I'm really happy with it. Again, I want to be aware and thinking of bridges, right? Creating bridges in my image to connect the paper that's in here to the elements out here. I'm going to need to do the same thing with the mouth and the teeth and stuff like that. But I like where this is at right now, so I'm going to hit OK. And I can also, while I'm in Photo P, I can use the paintbrush here, make my color white, click on the color at the top, make it white. And I can come in and I can actually like paint in some elements of bridges, right? Because I'm going to want this paper to be attached to the paper out here. And I'm going to think about stylistically how that's going to look, creating little bridges there. I might end up wanting to create a bridge that kind of comes through the hair. That would probably be better done when I am drawing. I'll have a little bit more control. But, in here, I'm going to want to create some bridges too through the nose, to the mustache, into the teeth, through here a little bit. So I can add those now if I wanted to. And I can also add them later. But here we go. I've got this where I want it to be. I'm going to go to File. I'm going to save or export it as a JPEG. Save it to the place that, is best for you on your desktop, wherever that be, and you're ready to kind of use this as your source image for your stencil. All right, let's get to work.